Okay, you asked for it, so this is going to be a quick podcast on how to manipulate the data in Excel based on the lab exercise that I assigned for you today in Ecology Lab. So you see a set of data here that conceivably could be the data that you collected for Witch Hazel today. We have upper branches and lower branches. We measured leaf length and leaf width, and we measured that for 3 leaves for each of 5 trees. Okay, so this is one nice way that you might want to set up the data. And actually, I suggest that this is the way that you set up your data if you haven't already. Okay, so one of the first steps in the activity that I showed you was how to calculate a mean. It's very easy. We'll calculate the mean for the upper branch, okay, for leaf length and width. So to do that, we just hit the equal sign in a cell below the data, and we type in average and an open parenthesis, and then we use the cursor to select all the data, okay, and then close parenthesis. If you forget to put the close parenthesis and hit enter, it will still work. It'll add that parenthesis for you, but it's a good habit to put the parenthesis. So I just hit enter, and there's my mean. Okay? I'm just going to bold that. All right. And now we also want to do standard error. Okay? So standard error, remember, was the standard deviation of the sample divided by the square root of n. And so equals, and Excel has a function for standard deviation of the sample. It's stdev, and you can see it's already suggested it here, .s. Okay, we have an open parenthesis, so we want the standard deviation of these samples, close parenthesis, and then we want to divide that by the square root, and in Excel that's sqrt, okay, square root of n, and it's a number. And so we know how many numbers there are here. There's 15, but I'll show you another way of getting that number. We just type in count and another open parenthesis and select our data. And then how many parentheses do we need to close this? 2. 1, 2. And there is our equation for standard error. The standard deviation divided by the square root of n. And it's 0.44 for this particular data set. If you wanted to calculate the mean and the standard error for all 4 columns, just select those 4 columns and drag from the small black square in the lower right hand corner all the way along to the right, and it will fill in those data for you. So now you have standard error and the mean for all 4 columns. Okay, let's keep things to 1 decimal place, and you can enlarge or decrease decimal places up here. So I want to decrease the decimal place to 1. Okay. All right, now let's move on to correlation. I'm going to select just the data for the upper branch now. Make sure not to select the mean or the standard error with this. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to move on to the correlation tab, which I've made. And I'm just going to paste it here. Okay. And now I'm going to go to the data tab up top. Navigate over to the right where it says data analysis and select correlation. Okay. Then we have to put in the input range. I've already done this once before, so it anticipates what my input range is. I'll get rid of this just so that it doesn't confuse you. But I'm going to select my input range with the label. Make sure labels in first row is checked. And I'm going to select an output range where Excel is going to spit out the correlation information right there next to the data. Okay? And what we're doing again with correlation is we're testing a hypothesis that there is a relationship, a correlation between length and width. And so when we hit OK, we test our hypothesis. And here is our correlation coefficient. Of course, the correlation of length and length is 1, and so is the correlation between width and width, obviously, because they're just doing a correlation for the same numbers. It's a perfect correlation because the numbers are exactly the same. But the correlation between width and length, although very strong, 0.89, basically 0.9, is not perfect because these are different numbers in these two columns. Okay, so what we found was that length and width of leaves is strongly correlated, or at least in these fake data, that's what we found. So let's select the length and width data along with the label, and we'll go up to Insert and Scatter Plot. And select the scatter plot that has no lines. Okay, there's our scatter plot. Right away, just get rid of this. Select it and hit delete. Okay. Now I want you to fill up the space that's been made here. I don't want all this extra space. It's serving no purpose. Okay. So let's manipulate this x-axis so that the lowest point is near to the beginning number where x and y come together here. So that would be somewhere around 4. And I think 12 is okay. So if we double click on one of these numbers, it should bring up the format axis table. And we want to set the minimum and maximum numbers for the axis. And so we have to select fixed for both of these. And let's put this one at 4. And let's just see what 11 looks like. Okay, then we hit close. Okay, that's removed all that empty space. Now let's do that same thing here. Let's make it from 3 to 10. 3 to 10 will look good. Fixed. 3 and 10 is already there. Okay, now that looks good. I'm a bit of a stickler about this. Format data series. Marker options. I always forget what that is. Built in. And let's get the circle. Alright. The color is not such a big deal, but I also generally like to have things in shades of black. Okay, there we go. Alright, let's manipulate this graph title. Actually, it is width. Okay. And I'm going to change the font. Just a little smaller. There we go. Okay. Select the chart, go to Layout, and we're going to add axis titles. Okay, let's do the horizontal one first. We select title below axis. Okay. And this axis is leaf length in centimeters. Don't forget to put your units. Okay. Vertical axis, rotated title. Leaf width, centimeters. Okay. Okay. A couple more things to do. Let's get rid of these lines. They serve no good purpose. Just click on one of the lines, it selects them all, and delete. Okay. Lastly, I would like to see the correlation coefficient in the body of the graph. So we can insert a text box. Little r equals 0.90. We'll round to 2 decimal places for r. Okay. And there we have correlation in Excel with a proper means of displaying that information in figure format.